Isn't that that last line of the movie?
Maybe, I don't know.
She just looks at him and she's like, let's f*** or something.
Maybe.
Like, that was, because I remember seeing the theater, I'm like, wait, what? That's the end of the movie?
I love that movie.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I remember that was the end of the Care Bears movie, too, wasn't it?
Yeah.
That was Bear.
Yeah.
Oh, God. He just had a big asshole. That was his image on his belly.
Don't Care Bear, stare at it, eat it.
Oh, no. On this episode of the MacGuffin Guild, we're going to join the powerful alchemist as he leads a thief and 7 materialistic figures through a corrupt, greed-fueled world in search of enlightenment in the Holy Mountain. This 1973 adventure drama fantasy was created and directed by Alejandro Jodorowsky, who also stars as the Alchemist. We're going to talk about the risk of introducing certain movies in mixed company, what this podcast would be like without Justin in it, nudity and animal cruelty in film, and Pat's trip to Belize. We'll discuss the other works of Alejandro Jodorowsky, artgasms, hippo budgets, the plight of ancient vampires, and how many jars of testicles it requires to build a temple. We'll get into films that are rated more than R, as well as the art of making movies to lose money. I'm Pat Doherty, and as always, I'll be joined by my fellow MacGuffins, Justin Jones and Mike Antonio. Our theme song was written and performed by Jordan Vincent. So join us as we explore the surreal world of Jodorowsky in search of answers and immortality in the Holy Mountain.
You better than this.
And welcome to another episode of the MacGuffin Guild. As you all know, a MacGuffin is a plot device used to drive along a story in a film. And we here on the MacGuffin Guild like to use the film as a MacGuffin to drive along our conversation. So, as always, I am here with my fellow MacGuffins, Mr. Justin Jones. Justin, how's it going?
Line. Okay. I'm doing well, Pat. How you doing?
Who's feeding you the lines? That's what I want to know.
I know we were doing so many edits. I just wanted to throw that in, which would make no sense now because no one's going to hear our re-edits.
Yeah. I would have cleaned that up by now.
Oh, yeah.
5 minutes ago. All right, and welcome to another episode of the MacGuffin Guild. I am Pat Doherty, and before we introduce the guys, I just want to remind everybody, as you are aware, we...
What the f***?
As you're aware, we are
What the
It's
hell
very
just,
intimidating.
What the hell just happened?
Hold on. I wanna, as you all know, a MacGuffin is a plot device...
Now you got to leave them in there.
Yeah, maybe I'll leave it in there. Give all the listeners a little behind-the-scenes access. Anyway, I'm glad you're here. It's nice having 3 of us.
I thought you were going to say it's nice having friends.
Yeah.
Well, that too. It just wouldn't be the same if it were me and Mike.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
It'd be pretty fucking
No,
boring.
that would be... In fact, I could... And look, this is no knock on Mike or myself, but that would be a lame-ass podcast.
I agree. Yeah. The dynamic would just be so off.
So let's try. Here, Justin,
Okay.
do your best not to respond to anything you hear right now, okay? We're just going to let this naturally happen.
Okay.
So, Mike, how's it going?
It's pretty good.
So, what's new? How'd work go?
It's all right.
So that would be about it. That would be
That would be the whole show.
In all seriousness, though, you doing okay?
Yeah. Not bad. How about yourself?
Good. Yes, I'm ready to get into this film. This is quite an interesting one.
I had asked you earlier if you had even previously seen it, so I want to get into that.
Well, we will. That is why we're here. So, the film, The Holy Mountain, 1973. 1 hour, 54 minutes. Although I've seen, do they have multiple cuts or extended editions? Because I saw somewhere else it was like 2 hours and 6 minutes or something. So
there's probably different cuts. I mean, because of the subject matter and some of the imagery, I'm sure in certain markets, they had to edit it differently.
Because the one I watched was an hour and 54, but then I saw somewhere else it was like 2 hours and 6 minutes. But anyway, rated R, which is no shock. In fact, I'm shocked it's not rated more than R.
Yeah, I know. I think that's the shocking part. When you said that, I was like, oh, wow.
Rated more than R.
Yeah, exactly.
R+.
So, directed by Alejandro Jodorowsky or Worowski. I've heard it pronounced multiple ways. In fact, I heard a third way, but I'm not even going to attempt that way. But maybe we'll just call him Ali J going forward.
That sounds good.
Just to simplify things, because as I'm sure you guys have picked up, we are pretty horrendous at our pronunciations.
Yeah, we like butchering people's names.
Well, we don't like it, but we're not proud of it.
Well, like as in like we just do.
Yeah, I mean, I excel at it, but it's not by choice.
I kind of like it.
We're going to hop over to Rotten Tomatoes here. Would anyone like to guess what this film has going on as far as on the tomato meter?
I couldn't imagine it'd be anything less than 100%.
Okay, that's your guess?
My guess? This is critic, right?
Yep, correct.
I'm going to say 92%.
You're both pretty close. It's 83%.
Huh. I was going to say
That's
89. That was my first.
Yeah, that's based on 24 reviews.
That's it?
Critic reviews. Yeah.
Wow.
I mean,
I thought this one would have like a plethora.
Well, that's just critics.
Well,
I mean,
know, but
yeah.
even that, I thought it would have more. But anyway, all right, we'll go on to the
audience score.
Audience
Guesses?
JJ?
0%.
Nah.
I'm just going real high and real low. I would say that's probably.
Oh, yeah, you did say 100%. You bastard.
80%.
You said 80?
Yeah.
All right. Mike?
I'm going to stick with 92%.
Mike's closer. But he did go over. It's 89%.
Okay.
Oh, God, that's what I was going to guess for the freaking the other one.
So let's give a range here. So primarily, obviously, based on the critical 83% on the tomato meter, it's mostly positives I have to work with here amongst the critics. Mm-hmm. But I'll try to give a little range. We'll start with some positives. Peter Bradshaw from Guardian, hardly a moment passes in this movie without a situationist display of outrageousness. It is a dream tableau of the weird and occasionally wonderful. Tableau, what is that? Tableau? Tableau? Tableau is the word, though. Is that how you say it?
Yeah, tableau.
Okay. Well, it doesn't matter. We got Nick Shager from Lessons of Darkness, a rambling stream of consciousness quest that in its final self-conscious act celebrates the primacy of the filmed image. You could see even some of these reviews are pretty heavy and thought-provoking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you want to know the definition of tableau?
Yes, please.
A group of models or motionless figures representing a scene from a story or from history.
Okay.
I was not really as close as I thought I was, but I definitely kind of.
So we got Daniel Barnes from Dare Daniel. An acid trip through the poison-tipped nettles of Jodorowsky's subconscious. Nettles. Nettles.
Mike, give us a definition on that.
Okay, a nettle is a fucking, I don't know what that word is.
So it's not just me.
A plant which has jagged leaves covered with, oh my God. It's some kind of plant which has jagged leaves covered with stinging hairs.
Do you think some people just listen to this to experience what it's like to be in a room with people all with head trauma? Like severe head trauma? Nothing anyone's saying has made sense.
They're just listening to the train wreck.
Yeah. All right, we got
God.
John Beefus from Commercial Appeal, so loaded with symbols and religious reference that the frames of the films flash by as if Jodorowsky were shuffling a deck of his beloved tarot cards.
Okay.
Let me see if I can find one more positive here, and then we'll get into some of the negatives.
I thought that was positive.
No, it is. It is positive. Yeah, that's what I've done so far is positive. I want to see if I can find another positive. Aaron Hillis from Premium Magazine, Jodorowsky's greatest and most ambitious midnight movie, a wickedly outrageous masterpiece that towers over its better-known precursor, El Topo, an ingeniously overstimulated film that could never be replicated today.
Oh, I totally agree. Mm-hmm. Totally agree with that.
All right, let's do some negatives. Film for Staff says Jodorowsky appears to have satirical targets in his sights, but when the viewer is caught up in this barrage of images, often playful, occasionally horrible, Frequently beautiful, but always fascinating, it's hard to discern a coherent point.
Yeah.
I get what he's saying, but I don't fully agree with that.
James Kendrick, we'll come back to that review about coherent points and if it's easy to translate what he's going for.
I know it's not easy.
Definitely
for
have
sure.
some thoughts on that.
Yeah.
As I'm sure we all do. James Kendrick, Q Network Film Desk. Starts off with great promise, but quickly descends into a kind of monotonous spiral of escalating pretension and wearisome shock tactics.
Nah, disagree.
Jeff Weiss from Deseret News says Jodorowsky's 1973 surreal fantasy is just too much to dig through. And he gave it 1.5 out of 4.
Yeah, that's the only... Actually, to be honest with you, I feel like there's a little truth to every one of those. Some more than others. But that particular one, I definitely wouldn't say there's not enough to dig into. I think there's maybe... I would say, if anything, there's too much to dig into.
Well, no, that's what he said. It's just too much to dig through.
Oh, well then, I stick with my original statement.
Dude, are we okay?
If we were all in the same room, I would swear there was a gas leak right now.
What is happening right now?
I don't know.
The dumbing down of America.
Yeah, I know. Oh my God.
Yeah,
Holy shit.
I'm glad to see we're all at our peak for this episode.
Woo.
This episode that probably takes more brain power to get through than any other movie we've done of
maybe
the last
maybe that's
since
why.
The
Maybe
Visitor.
we're just like we're fried. We're all
Yeah, I'm
fried.
a little intimidated to get into this one.
Cyborg really did me in, I guess. I'm out of bandwidth.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, that was last week's episode, and you should check it out. I hear it's a pretty good one.
Justin, this was your selection.
It was.
And I would love to know a little history, your history with the film, and how it ended up here on the MacGuffin Guild.
I saw that Exhumed Films years ago was playing El Topo and Holy Mountain, and I'd never seen... that's the first I'd heard of them. Anyone who doesn't know, Exhumed Films, it was a local place around us that would... fairly local
to us, yeah.
Yeah, that would, show all kinds of, midnight movies and you name it, all kinds of wild stuff. Which
Yeah,
actually
that's
was...
like where we saw Cannibal Holocaust.
Yeah, exactly.
But they would get the actual film, though, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, they would get a film print.
Yeah, and they'd have like theme nights and everything. Super cool. So anyway, I saw that they were, and I was really excited to go, and I was planning on going. I don't even remember what happened, but it fell through. And then I think I instantly bought the box set without seeing them or even knowing that much about them. That week or something. I think I went out because I was so excited to see them, and I was bummed I missed it. That I went out and bought them on it was like a DVD box set.
Mm-hmm.
And then I watched them. I was like, what the fuck? This is crazy. The truth, I don't really understand how I exactly feel about this movie. I enjoy it, and I'm glad it exists. I definitely I have mixed feelings when I watch it about certain things. But I don't know. Maybe that's what makes a good movie. It gives you, I'm constantly watching it and seeing different things and taking some from it. I was pretty sure you hadn't seen this. So I actually I'm pretty sure Mike saw it, but I had you in mind when I picked it because I was almost positive you didn't see it. And I don't remember if you remember this, but I remember you remember the time. But when our friend Chris was going to school, I think he was applying for school to do makeup effects.
Mm-hmm. Shout out to Chris Duncan.
When he did the makeup effect, the blister or whatever, the pustule. Yeah. I brought El Topo over to his house.
Oh, no shit.
And I put it in, and we were watching, and everybody was like, what the fuck
movie.
is this?
I
Everybody gave me some
that
shit and turned
story.
it off. Yeah, so I thought and that's what made me think. I was like, oh man, I'm going to make Pat watch this whole movie.
Dude, I remember that story now. I never realized what movie that was. I remember you brought something that was inappropriate for the, well, I don't know if inappropriate's the word, but that was, it didn't get the room reaction that you would.
Yeah, there's certain movies you don't want to introduce in mixed company, you know what I mean? You kind of want to know your crowd. I did the same thing with, was it Sallow?
Oh, God.
Yeah, I'd never seen that, and someone was like, oh, it's good, and I took it to George's house when we used to hang all the time. I was like, I know, I got this movie, I heard it was good, and I put it in, and everybody's like, what the fuck? They're like, don't bring any more movies over here. I was like, I had no
idea. That movie's rough.
Yeah.
That movie's very rough.
So, Mike, your history then with this film.
Okay. I remember when Justin got the box set, and I remember him talking about it, and him talking about Jodorowsky, and I'm like, no, I've never heard of him, blah, blah, blah. Mm-hmm. Years later, once I got my own place and everything, I started getting into bizarro fiction. Anyway, so I started reading that stuff, and I started befriending a lot of the authors, and I noticed multiple of them were always talking about Jodorowsky, and I was like, holy shit, oh, that's that guy Justin was... He had that box set. Maybe I'll buy a couple of his movies. And so I bought El Topo, Holy Mountain, and Santa Sangre.
Don't ask me.
Yeah, Santa Sangre. Yeah. Did you watch them all?
Yeah, I've seen them all.
Okay.
I've seen them all multiple times, actually, on multiple occasions. And I'm a fan. I am actually a fan of his. So I've seen like 4 of his films. And then he's got that documentary on his failed attempt to make the movie Dune, which David Lynch ended up making. That documentary is fantastic. So I'm already a fan. Mm-hmm. I like his stuff, and I like how it's just so abstract and surreal and full of striking imagery and beautiful cinematography. But anyway, yeah, that's where I'm at.
Yeah, the imagery is definitely the star. Like if someone had to say what's one thing that you like about it, I would say the imagery, which is obviously, but
it's like a painting. Everything's like a painting.
Mm-hmm. So let me ask then, because I fully agree that it is visually stunning. Even what you would assume would be a minor detail in another film. In this film is still a minor detail, but the amount of TLC that they give that minor detail is like astounding. Mm-hmm. I just can't fathom the amount of time and planning that you would have to put into making a film like this because of how visually stunning it is, but also how quickly it moves through these visually stunning environments, right from one visually stunning environment to the next. Mm-hmm. But my question to you guys, and believe me, there's plenty to unpack in this one, but my question to you guys is, both of you say the visuals are towards the top of the list if you're going to rank the qualities of this film. But what are your thoughts on the message behind those visuals? Do you think that, much like one of the reviews we read said that there was just too much to unpack, do you think that any of the messages and the meanings behind these stunning visuals, do you think they were coming through? Were they translating? Were they presented in a way that it's digestible?
His films require repeated viewings and also sometimes a little prompting by some online research, and then you're kind of like, oh yeah, I totally see that now. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
for sure.
I'd be lying if I said I understood what the hell this movie was about.
No, but this one actually makes more sense to me than like El Topo.
Yeah, I agree with that, and I think Santa Sangre felt like it had more direction than this did.
Yeah,
it was a little more straightforward.
His newer stuff, like that newer movie, was like even more of a straightforward. It was the one I saw was kind of like an autobiographical. I think it was, fictionalized, but kind of like the story of his life, but told with that stunning visual style of his.
Mm-hmm. The Dance of Reality?
Dance of Reality.
Okay.
That's it.
I haven't seen that one.
Yeah. Very good movie. That's actually a very good movie. Has a lot of heart to it. Because, he's much older now. Mm-hmm. He's not the young guy, dropping acid like he was in his older films.
Yeah.
So he's in his 90s now.
He's old, but he's still around, man.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, born in 1929.
And mm-hmm. the most recent pictures I think we saw, he looked pretty good too.
Yeah.
But we all know from the Robot Jocks episode, I shouldn't say that.
Oh, jeez.
Oh,
yeah.
Jesus Christ.
Shout out to Paul Koslow, R.I.P.
Yeah, man, he's had a long life. And watching that Jodorowsky's Dune documentary, it made me itch to see his version of that film that never got made. Mm-hmm. I think it would have been incredible.
Would it have been, though, or could it have been a situation where there's some of these artists there's too much of them in their work that they don't always know when to separate themselves from what they do really well.
He admitted that, didn't he admit that he agreed to do the movie and didn't even read the book?
Oh, he may have.
I think he was just going to wing it.
He was
going to, this is all I know, that, and that he was going to cast Hervé Villechaize as Gurney Halleck, who was like, for reference, was played by Patrick Stewart in the
yeah,
and then the new one's going to be played by Josh Brolin, I think.
Okay.
Who is even more accurate, because he's supposed to be like a grizzled, like,
he's supposed to be like a grizzled war hero.
Yeah, war hero. Yeah.
Anytime Justin throws a movie out there that I've never seen, I assume it's going to be wild. And I would be lying if I said it didn't exceed those expectations, because it absolutely did.
I was, every once in a while when we were watching, I'd just start laughing, and Sarah would look at me and she's like, "What?" And I'm like, "Pat's watching this."
I know. I think I said to Angel, I can't wait to find out Pat's reaction to this.
I was more excited thinking about Pat talking about it than I was actually watching it.
Well, me too. Yes.
I have 3 pages of notes. Yes, had never seen it. Exceeded my expectations as far as how wild it was. But I'm looking forward to digging into some things, because I think you may be surprised how I ended up feeling about this movie, because typically this is not really my speed.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not against this style of filmmaking. There's things about this film, Justin, I'm sure you hinted at it earlier. There's things about this film that I just outright don't like.
Yeah.
For obvious reasons, but it's really funny because this is certainly one of those types of films for me where I feel like I'm not smart enough to be able to absorb everything this film's throwing at me. I think a lot of people could probably say that. Like, there's just so much,
I'm in that
so
boat.
much to take in. However, I had to watch this film in 2 parts just because of scheduling. So I watched like the first hour of it, and then I watched the final hour of it a little later. And when I walked away from it after watching that first hour, I could not get it off my mind, and not for negative reasons.
Yeah.
I couldn't get it off my mind because I thought it found such a creative way to totally put human beings on blast.
Yeah.
And just how despicable we can be, how offensive and humiliating and how awful human nature can be. And what I loved about when we get to the end, I loved how it did to me come full circle, and it did have a very solid message.
It's almost like you're watching something through a distorted lens, and right at the end someone put it in focus, and then everything you saw then triggers in your brain, and you're like, oh,
yeah.
okay, I get it now.
Totally. But what I appreciated about it as well was, even like, because the film, again, it's astounding to me how much. And I'm looking at the budget. Budget says $750,000. That's fucking crazy to me.
Wow.
That is crazy.
I can't fathom how they were able to pull that off. You look at wardrobe alone for some of these scenes with the amount of extras they had that all had very specifically chosen wardrobes, whether they be uniforms or particular clothing that they're wearing. It's just astounding to me.
Was that U.S. dollars? I was just saying because it was in the 70s for one, and then for two, I think it was filmed in Mexico. So I wonder what the exchange rate.
It has it as American, and then it says opening weekend in the USA was not good. You guys want to know what it made its opening weekend? In the US?
$85.
$4,143.
Holy crap.
That's what it says here anyway on IMDb. Gross USA $61,000, then worldwide $104,000. So it still didn't even come close to its budget.
Jeez.
But look.
Yeah.
Okay.
But because of the type of film it is, I can kind of understand that.
But yeah, I don't know how you can make a movie. It was such a vast, beautifully presented world. I don't know how you pull that off in that budget. But anyway.
I'm glad you mentioned that, because Sarah and I, we've been talking, that was a big topic for us when we were talking about this, was like the financial aspect of this. Just because, like, and this goes deep into like his mentality on how he does things, because he said, I don't know if I read, because I don't know if I watched it in the special features, or I think she read it in an article online and sent it to me, which I didn't read, but he said something. It's been a week, man.
Glad to know you're doing your research.
I've skimmed through it. But he said something about like, I'm paraphrasing, but it's basically, I don't make movies to make money. As a matter of fact, I want to lose money. I make movies to have fun and enjoy it and stuff. And I appreciate the spirit of that. But but I'm someone who in the working class, I'm really confused about that. Like, who's producing these? Because if I were making a movie and I was like, you know what? I don't give a fuck if this loses money. Yeah. I'm not going to have producers knocking down my door going, hey, I heard what you said. I love it.
I love it.
Have your people talk to my people. You know what I mean?
Here's $750,000. Go lose it.
Yeah, please flush this down the toilet. Is it some kind of tax thing or something? I don't know.
Might be.
I don't know.
But I was very confused. And then I was like, does he come from money? Is he just loaded? But it's like, yeah, money is no object when you have all of it, I guess. So I don't know. The point being is I don't know
his history.
There's a lot of questions about this financial situation that is very confusing to me.
Yeah, well, I've mentioned this before in past episodes. In fact, it may have been the previous episode, Cyborg episode, where I mentioned how I tend to lean towards a respect for the art of filmmaking as opposed to the business side of filmmaking.
Yeah.
So I can certainly appreciate that approach, but yes, it seems like he's not interested in maintaining that balance either. He doesn't give a shit about that. But at the same time, maybe the people that are spending that kind of money are not necessarily looking for their money back either. Maybe they are just looking to create a piece of art that will live forever.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, you have your name on something, and it's for some people, what's $500,000? Just throw $500,000 or something.
But especially now that his reputation is out there, and you kind of know, it's no different than you paying if Picasso were alive and you wanted to get a piece of what he had to offer. You're gonna pay. Right. You're gonna pay for it. But
he did have some celebrity endorsement, from what I understand, because I think it was. Fact check to someone out there in listener land. I think it was El Topo or something, was like John Lennon was like in love with it or something like that, and was like introducing it to a lot of people.
There were like musicians and stuff who were definitely on board with him and early supporters of him
in the scene. With
like Dune and stuff, he had a lot of people who were potentially going to be involved with that, including Salvador Dali.
Yeah, and Dan O'Bannon, right?
Yes. Yep, he was on board at one point, and I think Giger too.
Yep, he was too. That's how Giger and Dan O'Bannon.
Yes, that's how they met.
Connected to end up working and making Alien.
On Alien, yep.
Really?
There was a band that was I think it was Pink Floyd. Pink Floyd was supposed to do the music, I think, for Dune.
Okay.
I think his version of Dune. I think it was Pink Floyd.
His version would have been wild.
It would have been.
Yeah, woo! I definitely would have loved to seen it, but
he has a big thick like binder / book full of just like illustrations and stuff, like concept art.
I mean, of that concept art, how many assholes and testicle jewels did you see? Because I'm sure there are lots of them.
Well, I think Salvador Dali was supposed to play the Emperor, and he wanted a throne that had like two dolphins, like one on each side with their mouths open, and one was supposed to go for
something like
pissing
that,
in, and the other one was supposed to be pooping in.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah.
Wow.
Good stuff.
Which that's pretty practical if you think about it. If you're the Emperor and you need to be on your throne.
True.
Why don't you just carve the bottom out? Let's think about this for a second. No, I'm just kidding. We can move on.
The cinematographer of this, we got to give him a quick shout. And he's got, as far as cinematography goes, 46 credits. I'm not even going to attempt to pronounce them because it would appear that he primarily did his work in Mexico.
Okay. Not even one?
Well, yeah, I'll do the Holy Mountain.
Damn. Got me on a technicality.
Okay, here we go. There Are No Thieves in This Village. That's one that he's done.
Okay.
That was 1965. House of Madness, which was right after the Holy Mountain. Same year, 1973. He did Folklore documentary, 1991. Anyway, he passed in 2013. His name is Raphael Corkidi. 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 Yes, his stuff is pretty phenomenal. Again, I don't understand. Like, okay, you look at the one scene where again, this is jumping ahead a little bit, but just to give an example of how phenomenal this stuff is and how I can't fathom doing it on the budget they did, the one scene where they're in that tarot card room.
Oh yeah.
And the camera is above, and then the camera spins, and the whole room spins. But even just a rig like that, and a room like that, like where was that room? If that room already existed, where was it?
Yeah.
Or two, traditionally, when you see a room like that in a film, it's probably built. It's like a set that they build, and then they have the camera rigged up in a way that is, is feasible. And I'm just astounded. But that's just a drop in the bucket compared to all this the visually stimulating stuff that it had. Yeah. Not to mention the amount of actors and extras and wardrobe, and even not only humans, animal wardrobe. Like the amount of artists they had to hire to literally make wardrobe for frogs. It's
armor.
Crazy.
The conquistadors,
It's absolutely insane. But anyway, I wanted to give him a shout out. Stuff is astounding. So here's what I would like to do, unless you guys have any ideas of different directions you want to take this. This is what I would like to do. I have my Pat's points in front of me.
Pat's points.
I would like to go through them, and I have some of the weird things written down, which there's lots of weird things. But what I want to do is we'll rattle through some of these. I want to throw them out there and ask you in these particular moments of the film if these elements, what they represented to you or what you thought he was trying to...
oh boy. I think it might be kind of tough. Well, I will do this. I think it'll be fun.
But I think it'll be kind of... I think we're all too dumb.
Yeah. A, we're all too dumb. B, I know a lot of the imagery and stuff he based on the De Marseille tarot cards or whatever. Like, that was a huge influence. Because actually on the DVD, there's a special feature just about him talking about the tarot cards and down to like how many cards are in that version versus how many other cards and how card games evolved from it. And like he's like way into it and like what each thing means. And then after watching that and seeing the cards, and then seeing the cards they used in the movie, you actually see that stuff happening throughout the movie, in the cards. Anyway, but that's why it might be a little trippy. But.
No, that's cool to hear. In fact, I'm learning already. So it could be a lot of these visuals could be something as simple as him seeing a work of art on a tarot card that he liked, and he based a scene around it. Or built characters based on those visuals.
Yeah, and I believe the tarot cards in the movie are actually, that's his tarot design. Like, if I'm not mistaken, like he took imagery from all other like different tarot cards, because he said he started studying different tarot cards and versions and starting to piece. He started seeing repeating things, and then started merging them into his own set of tarot cards, which is the foundation. From what I understand, it seems like the foundation of the film. Yeah.
All right, so let's just, with that in mind then, and again, we don't have to dwell too long on any of these points. I just want to rattle off a few of them. You have this alchemist character. He's kind of like, everything kind of flows through him in this whole film.
Played by Jodorowsky.
Yes. And we also have the thief character. He would be arguably the main character, so to say. Even though the alchemist, everything flows through the alchemist, the thief is kind of who we follow.
Correct.
Through most of the film. When the thief wakes up, he's passed out with the bugs all on his face. What did that represent when he comes to? Because later on we see him, before they get a mold of his body, which we'll get to that in a second, but he came to from that because of he was drunk.
That's what it seemed right? Yeah.
Because remember, he was laying there, bugs on his face, like literally urinating himself. And then all these children came running up to him, and then they crucified him.
Yeah.
I didn't know what I was supposed to believe, like what led to him coming to in that moment.
I personally, as someone who has been drunk and pissed himself, I would say that the way I took it, you didn't know you had an expert here. The way I took it was that it's just someone down on his luck with nothing, like he just has nothing, and it's just him just getting drunk to the point where he doesn't care that there's flies on his face, which I thought was like him being like, oh, he's just dead to the world, like, you know what I mean?
He's a nobody. Yeah, he's like, he has no purpose, no direction.
Yeah, he's no hope, no nothing. Like, I think it was just to show how like nothing that his life was.
Yeah. So when he came to, obviously he got crucified. He resembled Jesus, obviously.
Yeah, he was a very Christ-like figure.
And after being crucified momentarily by these children who ultimately get scared away when he starts screaming nonsensical noises at them, they run off, and then he meets this armless, legless character that they then create a bond. Now, I know we find out later there's a little more to that than you originally assume, but what we see in that moment is that this thief Jesus character and the armless, legless sidekick of his head into town and introduce us, the viewer, to a plethora of just bizarre characters, bizarre situations, just complete and utter chaos amongst many other things. Now, just to talk about there was animal cruelty in this film.
Yeah, that was my biggest no with this. I still to this day do not like that at all.
It's not cool, and I don't care if it's it's because it's before they had the laws. I don't care.
Yeah, it's still it's
still
like
killing animals.
Yeah, if you don't have laws anymore, it'd be okay just to torture them. That's insane.
You're gonna have a hard time with Cannibal Holocaust when we do that one.
Yeah, that was rough.
That is rough. That to me is way more rough than this movie. Not to say that this didn't bother me, but woo, man, Cannibal Holocaust is a whole new ball game.
So yeah, the animal cruelty shit kind of like
I didn't dig that at all.
Gruesome.
That was the only thing that really took me out of this movie.
Yeah,
that
it's the same here.
Yeah, it's not pleasant for sure.
No.
So viewer beware unless you've probably already watched it, but
but that is something.
It's something we definitely don't condone.
Cool. No.
And it's not super heavy, but it's definitely enough to be.
It's there. Yeah.
This is when I could tell right away that what he was presenting to us was his spin on human beings and our nature. I could tell from the jump when they got into town and you saw the firing squads killing people, and then the tourists running up and snapping photographs. I was like, that's just that's a
comment on humanity.
It's a comment on humanity, a caricature of us at our core, but it was those kind of elements. There was so much of that. That after a while it was difficult to keep up because there was just so many fastballs coming at you.
Yeah.
Like it would literally go from, firing squads and deaths and tourists, and then a soldier would just, grab a woman and then they would just start having sex.
But then it was weird because then she was like, okay, this is all part of the ride. Like it was like there's so much going on, man. Yeah.
Embraced it.
I think it was just trying to show like this city is full of bad shit going on.
That city is us.
Oh,
that city is this world.
It's a comment on humanity, but I'm just saying
it's not like it's just the city that they were showing in town. Like that city is supposed to represent this world.
Right.
Then you have what's that, Justin?
Just to bounce off, not to get too far into it, because I have a feeling there's going to be a lot of stuff to chew into. But I'm also, when you mentioned the thing about the tourists run up and taking the pictures, and I remember seeing that too. At first, I was like, I wonder if that was like came from an personal experience of his, like if he grew up in an area that was like a poor area that had like people come in, like tourists and stuff, where they just didn't understand. Like it was a show to them, where it was like everyday life to someone else.
It's funny. I've been to Belize before. Have you ever been to Belize?
I don't believe I have.
God. You asshole.
I strike two.
So listen, just to give an idea, like I went to Belize, and it was via a cruise ship. So here I am, a middle-class white American man getting off a cruise ship to go on my excursion for the afternoon in Belize to look at like some Mayan ruins or whatever we were doing, or zip lining in the jungle. When you pull up to the port and you walk in, it is the most, God bless them, but it was like, it looked, and it wasn't, but it looked like a war-torn country. Like literally people living in like 4x4 boxes. So here we are then loading onto a bus and being driven through, and we're all like snapping photos and like, oh, look at this and look at that and look at those people. Meanwhile, the people outside the bus looking at us are just trying to survive the day. You know, they're not on a tour. They're not on a cruise. They're not on a tour of Mayan ruins. They're just trying to feed their family that night. So yeah, maybe you're right. Maybe it is. That's very much what he was portraying in that moment.
That's how I originally took it. And then when you said it again, it made me think of, I always see like these artist renditions of their take on like with cell phones and stuff, and how like when something happens, people are more likely to take a picture than to call somebody. You know, you have all these video footage and stuff, and I was like, oh, we're getting crazy. But like, that just goes to show you this movie's like over 40 years old, and and I feel like it's like more things change and more they stay the same. You know what I mean?
Right.
That's right. Reminds me of that meme of like an asteroid coming down toward Earth, and then you see somebody like snapping a photo of it with their phone. Yeah.
I didn't see
I've seen that.
That's what. If you were to ask me to summarize this film in one sentence, that's exactly what it would be. And I know I'm not discovering gravity here. I know I'm not the first one to recognize this. This film is it's not only a study of human nature, it is a revealing of human nature.
Yeah.
Like, it was put, because that was the thing. When I first got into it, I'm like, okay, so this is just going to be a bunch of fancy painted rooms and crazy wardrobes with balls hanging out and just nutball stuff. But it wasn't that. Like, as it started to reveal itself, I was like, God damn, like these messages, as abstractly as they're presented, the core of the message is so legit. And that's why when I told you I watched the first half of the film and then I had to stop, when I walked away from it, that first half was like just sitting in me, dude. And I was like, holy shit, I can't wait to see where this is going.
Yeah.
Because it had such I was telling Amanda about it before I even finished watching the rest of the film. You know, because it surprised me with how much intelligence it had behind all of its flashy visuals.
I sometimes find there's a fine line between, like, I think I mentioned this before, I can't stand just like wacky and crazy for the sake of being wacky and crazy. But, and like I remember watching this, and even when I watch, I'm like, how much of this is crazy for the sake of being crazy, and how much of this has a point to do with something I'm missing? And I'm trying to step out I always try and step out of myself to see, you know, a lot of it I knows over my head. So I don't know, but then I still think though, there is some stuff where he's just like, yeah, we should throw some crazy shit in there.
Oh,
I know what I mean?
I think totally, but dude, I was surprised. Like, okay, you go from the opening scene. Now, I was a little confused at first, like when we first saw the thief and he was covered in bugs and then he got up. But once he got in town and then we got through all the frog stuff and the lizard stuff, once it got into the soldiers and the tourists, and then we then followed the thief as he got drunk, and then he was brought in by some religious types that looked like Roman guards, but these overweight men dressed in like old Roman guard attire. And what I got out of that scene was, I thought that scene was very much, and maybe I'm wrong, I want to hear if you guys took it differently. They came across this thief again who's now passed out drunk, and they see he looks like Jesus. So unbeknownst to him, they get a body cast of his. And when he comes to and wakes up and he looks around the room, they took his likeness and made a warehouse full of Jesus, crucified Jesus statues. And of course, he was in horror and he started destroying them except for one. And we can get more into that here in a moment. But what I took from that, first of all, Jodorowsky obviously feels very strongly about religion and government and sexuality and all the cores of humanity. You could tell he's very opinionated in all of those elements, because he puts it on full blast in this film. But the one thing I took out of that was that even religion and human nature using religion would steal not only the likeness, but potentially the talent or the skill of someone who doesn't have the means to make the decision themselves, but they will steal it from them to better their own self-interests. You know what I'm saying? Because you see that done all the time in arts, in music, people taking advantage of those who are more talented, but maybe don't have the means or the exposure. Then you have these bigger organizations, the religions of the world or the entertainment industries of the world, that come in and just, without permission, take it and do what they will with it, with no regard for that person's personal feelings or thoughts on the situation. I don't know if that's what he was trying to tell me, but that's what I got out of it.
The fact that you got something out of it, I think, you know what I mean? Like, the fact that it's get you thinking and stuff, I think is, at the point, and I think that's awesome. That's what I like about it.
What is it that they say? Art is subjective.
That's true.
Again, you look at those, and I know it seemed that most of those, what ended up being all those, that warehouse full of Jesuses, they all seem to be paper mache as he was breaking them apart, but that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because
the fact that they manufactured all those,
That's a lot of paper mache.
It is. Yeah. Does somebody want to explain to me the scene with the prostitutes, and then you have amongst them was a young girl, which, as horrific as it is, I understood where he was going with that aspect.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Again, more the deep-rooted sickness and vile activity of just humanity.
Yeah, with the old man holding her hands, and then he pulls out his fake eye, and
Explain that to me. What did the
I don't
eye
know.
scene represent? What did you guys take from that?
I don't know. At that point, I was like, I wasn't sure. I was like, I understood like the part with the young girl. I was like, okay, they're showing like some kind of, extreme perverse like kind of society, and but then the eyeball in the hand, I didn't really understand, but it was cool visually.
I mean, was it something as simple as the man literally had his eye on her? You noticed.
Kill it in Pictionary.
Oh yeah,
or charades or whatever. Like
I don't know. I just couldn't get past looking at like his the eye hole.
Yeah.
Yes, me too, man. I was like focused intently on that eye hole.
Yeah. I couldn't.
Maybe because I've never seen one before.
Oh, the other thing. Okay, so we're as far as where my notes go here, we're not even a half hour into the film yet, and this is all the wild shit we've encountered. Correct me if I am wrong, but I'm pretty positive, if my math is correct, that we were 31 minutes into the film before we heard our first line of dialogue, our first actual line of dialogue.
There's a long stretch at the beginning.
That's very possible.
There's no dialogue.
Yeah.
There's noises, like you said.
It's grunting, screaming, yelling, overreacting, but no actual words.
I think there's
even when the priest...
gibberish.
Yeah, even when the priest is... So... The thief ends up leaving. He destroys all the Jesus statues except for the one, and he takes that one with him, and I'm assuming he's trying to find it a home. I don't know why he decided to keep just the one, but he goes and encounters a priest who is sleeping in bed with another statue of Jesus. But even when that priest comes to, he's like barking and grunting. It's not words. Mm-hmm. And then finally, the thief character gets thrown out, and then he starts eating the face of his statue, Jesus statue. And it literally looked like cookie dough.
It looked like cake or something, or
Which that was just weird, but I guess that could be taken as something a little more straightforward, like the body of Christ or whatever. I don't know if that's supposed to represent
probably.
That.
That whole section was like an REM video. So I was just like taking it all in. I was like, okay, I'm just as confused as I was when I was 11.
But then he strapped a bunch of balloons to the remaining what was left of the statue and sent it up to the heavens. Right. So I don't know what that meant. And then he himself took a fish hook up to the top of the tower.
Yeah.
Which...
Now, that tower, is that like a real tower that's just sitting there?
That looked like a real thing.
I would guess.
Like, where the fuck did that come from? Is that
I don't know.
And then the stunt guy to go up in a diaper on a fish hook all the way up there, I almost passed out watching that scene. Dude, I almost lost it. It reminded me the one time I went to D.C. and I went up to the Washington Monument. And I never realized how fucking big the Washington Monument is. And I put my hands on it and I looked up at the sky and I almost fell over. Like, I was like, this is like overwhelming. And when I watched this stunt, it might have been the actor. I don't know. Because what's the name said?
It was
like,
the actor.
Yeah, because Alejandro was just like, he just used to come do drugs and crazy shit. But he probably hopped on this hook and went up there, and I was just like, I had that feeling again. I was like, oh my God, I'm going to pass out.
Dude, that
like, out of all
wild.
the things in the movie, that's the thing that was going to make me pass out.
The
thief he goes up the tower, and that's where he finally meets the alchemist in the tower. And that's where we hear our first actual line of dialogue 31 minutes in, which is the alchemist asking the thief, do you want gold? So again, this is just it's a book report on humans.
Oh, and even we didn't even mention like the hook. There's like, well, we're gonna say there's gonna be tons of stuff we're not gonna mention, but like even the hook that he gets on, it's like there's some symbology with like he puts food and stuff, and it's like hooking like a fish, like he's fishing for
exactly.
people with
That's
money.
exactly.
Yeah,
he just got fished out of the sea.
Yeah, that was one that didn't go over my head.
Yeah.
I felt inclined to point that one out.
Yeah.
Well, this is good. This will be a good one for our social media interaction with people. People can point out things that we miss or misinterpret or give their interpretations.
Yeah. There might be character limits as far as how much they can type.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Because they're going to need to do a book report to explain some of this.
If you get on Discord, though, there's no character limit as far as I know.
Oh, really?
I didn't hit it.
So this is the big question I have. So real quick, just to paint a picture for the listeners, and I apologize, there's just so much. So
many layers to this movie.
I would say, so many layers, but then so many moving parts, because they'll spend 30 seconds in one wild environment and then literally move on to the next, and then we'll never see that previous wild environment ever again. And it's just crazy. But so the thief character goes up the tower, finally goes in the window. Inside, there's a thin tower, but once he gets inside, it's very vast and wide open.
Like the TARDIS.
Yeah.
It looks small on the outside, but it's large on the inside,
Yeah.
Doctor Who fans, for those who aren't aware.
It's like all painted like rainbows and whatnot inside. And then the Alchemist is in there with his, what animal was that? A camel.
Oh, yeah, the camel.
It was a camel. And then his assistant, I guess, who's just all tattooed up.
I was wondering, with her, was it an assistant? Or was it, that was his first, that was the first of his...
The first of the bunch that he collected?
Because she was part of that 9.
Yeah. You're right.
So is she one of the first ones he recruited, or she was visiting or something? Plus she had the, I forget what they call it, but it looked like she had the staff with the snakes on the back, like the medical, the paramedics and stuff have.
Yeah, like Hermes.
That was tattooed on her back.
Well, she was helping him with the alchemy stuff and everything. Maybe she was like his protege.
Well, she also removed the squid tumor from his neck, which was very nice of her.
Yeah. But then she bathed him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like straight up sponge bath, even got his butt crack, which they made sure to make sure we didn't miss that.
Oh, yeah, she was very thorough.
But then after that,
Was that where the hippo was in the water? Was that there?
Yes.
Yeah.
And then after
Where do you
that,
fucking get a hippo? Don't gloss over that. Where do you get a hippo?
Well, I thought it was...
In Mexico, no less. Are there hippos in Mexico? Sorry, go ahead.
I thought it was precious how the hippo was drinking from the fountain.
Like, how much would it cost to rent a hippo? Like, if you had a
That's what I'm
kid's
saying.
party or something?
How much of the budget went towards hippo?
Yeah.
I bet he had a friend that had a hippo. He seems like the type of guy just makes friends and they're like, let me give you all this shit for your movie, yeah.
After he bathed, that's when shit started to get real. Now, yes, I said it. That is when it started to get real.
Oh, I thought you were emphasizing the shit part.
No. Well, yeah. Then he then shits into a jar.
Uh-huh.
Okay, now my question before we proceed about what happens with this shit in the jar.
You're going to ask if we would shit into a jar.
My question is, couldn't they have had him shit in the jar before they cleaned his ass?
Yes, dude, I was thinking the same thing. Good call.
So he shits in the jar, and then the jar gets turned, ultimately, after going through this process, they burned it, and then they turned it into like a potion.
Yeah, he transmutes it. That's you turn
gold.
shit into gold, yeah. You turn shit into gold. I didn't mean literally shit, but in this case.
Literally shit into gold.
And then that's when you have the Wizard of Oz moment where he's like, you had the power within you the whole time.
Yeah.
You just had to shit into a fishbowl and then steam it.
Before I proceed, what did you guys gather from anything I've just mentioned? Is there any underlying messages that he was trying to portray that I may not have...
I'm sure there are.
I think it was like the shit into gold is a metaphor. Like in a broader sense, you have you have the potential to turn your nothingness into something. Maybe.
Yeah, these are the first steps of.
Yeah.
These are the first steps of going from being a drunken dude in a diaper pissing yourself with flies on your face to to
greatness.
to greatness,
to immortality.
To immortality, yeah.
I mean, right? I mean, that's what I got out of it.
Upon the holy mountain, which you got to say is the only thing that's very straightforward in this entire thing. Is the plot of the movie is just like people trying to ascend the holy mountain at all costs.
Well, let's get there.
Yeah. So here's what we got. Let me just rattle this off. So ultimately, we end up having, because I got more notes on here, but it's just going to be a lot of, mirror room. The tarot room with the spinning camera work. Can
I just say the mirror room was awesome? Because not only was it visually awesome, all those freaking mirrors, and I looked, and this is why I wanted to ask you about, Pat, because you're really good at picking up things. I didn't see that camera at all. There was like one little red thing that might have been a camera hidden in it or something.
Yeah.
I don't know. But
no, I was looking too. I didn't see it. There was something in the bottom left, but I think ultimately it ended up not being a camera.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think they did a really good job of setting it up in a way where they achieved it.
Yeah, and the way they're walking, it looks like they're on multiple levels and stuff. Yeah, it was a great
crazy.
Shot.
Yeah, it was awesome. But again, I'm wondering, like, does this stuff, did it exist already? They couldn't have possibly produced all of that on this budget. They must have found a shit ton of things that were already pre-existing and then just utilized them.
I don't know.
So anyway, obviously, other than religion that I already mentioned, Jodorowsky appears to have had, I don't want to say issue, but he wanted to make sure he called out industrialists, politicians. No group of any sort was safe in this film when it came to just humanity across the board.
He was a hate the player, hate the game type guy.
Yeah. Before we proceed, the Alchemist ultimately puts together a group of 9. And of this group, we have, and I want to read them off real quick, the cosmetics manufacturer, and each of these members represented a planet in our solar system. The cosmetics manufacturer, who represented Venus, the weapons manufacturer, who represented Mars, a millionaire art dealer, who was Jupiter, a war toy maker, Saturn, a political financial advisor representing Uranus, however you want to say it, a police chief representing Neptune, and an architect representing Pluto. So all of them, plus we speak of this assistant that we mentioned earlier. Did we learn her story, or did I miss that? I don't think we learned her story.
That's a good point. And I wonder if she was supposed to be Mercury.
Yeah.
Because they never mentioned Mercury.
And then what would the thief be? Earth?
I wonder if he might just represent Earth then. I don't know. He's Captain Planet.
The fish think about hunger, not about fishermen. There were so many lines like that.
Yeah,
When I heard them, I'm like, fuck, dude. Like, they seem so simple at face value, but like when you really like start to like think about them, they're like mind alter. And I wasn't on drugs when I watched this, mind you.
Yeah, neither was I. Anytime I've watched this, I haven't been.
The other thing that really hit me hard, again, recognizing how long ago this film was made. What year was it? 1973. This ultimately, like, when you look at this, what I'm about to say, compared to the world we live in now, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, social media in general, TV, movies, podcasts, people want to be loved, not for what they are, but for what they appear to be.
Oh, that was Venus guy, right? You said that.
Yep. And I mean, look, we've heard that stuff before. It's not like we haven't heard that before, but in the context in which it was presented, it really packed a punch. And,
very effective.
It's just, because that was they sold masks, so you could. Right, the cosmetic masks is what that company sold.
Fake butts, fake calves, which I'd like. I wish that was a real thing. I'd purchase them. I've kind of got some embarrassing calves.
Yeah, just everything. The sexism in the workplace was something he addressed.
Oh yeah,
where this one character owned the company, and he said all of my workers are females, and they start as workers. And then I promote them to secretary. And when they become secretary, he then impregnates them with his children. It's just like, it's, very in your face. But when you break it down to the core of the message he's trying to sell, like it was like, dude, they kept firing. It was hard to keep up.
And stardom, like, kind of had a stardom aspect because he was kind of almost like a rock star where like when he picked that girl, she went crazy.
Yep. like it was Elvis.
Yeah.
God, yeah. Oh, yeah. And then
Did
when
you just
the
orgasm?
artist, when we got to the artists,
That's what good art does. Don't be embarrassed. Embrace it.
He had an artgasm.
what was it? The millionaire art dealer. It's funny we should be talking about art because that's exactly what I was getting ready to say. The millionaire art dealer. He said, we put out a new line of art every season, and they literally had the conveyor belt with people slapping their asses in paint and then putting their ass prints on paper.
Yeah.
Again, that to me, in 1973 now, this just proves to me that history repeats itself. In 1973, how many of us can say in our lifetimes even, whatever artistic style we're referencing at the time, how many of us can say, oh, I love these bands because they're awesome and they're great musicians, but then you look at what they play on the radio and it's all this cookie cutter horse shit.
Yeah.
You know, we all have those sorts of opinions. And I'm not saying that's necessarily my opinion. I'm just painting a picture of what
with your ass.
What we... yeah, with my ass. of what we typically do. But that to me was representation, and it was selling that message that you have this millionaire art dealer, and what's he doing? He's literally pumping out straight shit like it's garbage art. But he says, oh, every season we put out our new line. It's like there's no thought, there's no skill, there's no talent, there's nothing.
No, it's just a product.
Yep, that's it. It's like, God damn, like all of these messages, like they carried so much weight. And that is why, if you can't tell, that is why I was impressed by this film from the jump, because even though it was abstract AF to the point of being like a drug-induced fever dream, I was cracking little eggs here and there and getting like, oh fuck, like that's awesome the way he just made that point, you know, like, I was picking up, I wouldn't say everything, but I was picking up on a lot of what he was throwing down. Dude, and then there was shit you just had to laugh at, like when the millionaire art dealer slid underneath of that one thing. And it was an art show, and they had weird shit. Like you could go up and literally just like flick somebody's genitals with a feather. Just crazy stuff. And then there's this one art piece that you literally slide underneath, and all it is it was literally somebody's painted ass, like sitting in a seat, but their ass was exposed. And he literally just pinched and poked not only the butt cheeks, but eventually just like pinched right or poked.
Stuck a finger up in there.
Right up in their butt.
Yeah. I don't know where it went, but he was about wrist deep, man. That was like crazy. I was like, as an actor, I was like, that takes real dedication.
I know.
Yeah, Angel watched it with me. She's seen it with me before, but she was like really paying attention this time. And when that scene, she was just like, ew. Like that was her critique of that particular moment.
Where it went after that, I thought was great, because then he got into sexuality, and he got into the complexity of the female body, the human female body, and the shortcomings of the male, and how we are ill-equipped and uneducated in handling that complex female body. But they did it in a way with this art piece and this what was it, an electric rod, you know?
Yeah.
And I just thought it was very well done. It was very funny. You had to chuckle at it, but at its core, it definitely represented something that was so deeply human. I thought it was cool. And then a baby.
Yes.
A baby popped. Well, not a real baby, but like a little robot art piece. A robot baby. I could keep going. He gets into racism when now he's dealing with the which character was it?
Was it the toy maker?
Was it the war toy maker? And then they produced the comic book,
Captain,
and it was them against the Peruvian monsters.
Yeah,
you know, it was just like he was tapping into every negative
aspect of human nature, every
negative aspect, but also just the way every negative tendency of human nature he was tapping into. There was just no stone left unturned, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So does somebody want to explain to me the chief of police and his collection of 1,000 testicles?
Yeah, and was it 1,000 testicles or was it 1,000 pairs of testicles? And it didn't look like he cut off the testicles.
I think it was 1,000 pairs of testicles.
There's a lot of logistical stuff that was confusing to me too, because when he did snip it too, it looked like he was cutting off their dong, not their balls.
Well, the dong was under the little black hood, wasn't it? And then the balls were just
I guess it really doesn't show. Maybe maybe he was protecting it with the hood and he was going for the... Okay, that makes more sense. Thanks.
Does it make more sense?
Yeah. Oddly enough, it does.
Whenever you're referencing like a dong hood and a jar of testicles, like, oh, yes, thank you for clarifying.
Wait, run that by me. How many testicles did he need for his temple? I missed something there.
Exactly.
I hope my neighbors heard me say that.
The part where you had the developer totally selling people on the idea of, in essence, living in a coffin.
Yeah.
You know, it was just like, pack them in. You know, it doesn't matter about, you know, comfort and space. Like, you can make shit tons of money just convincing them that they can live comfortably in this coffin.
And he points out, he's like, oh, we made a mistake the first time by giving them, you know, a little bit of land to grow their own food and do this and that. So, yeah, we're going to stuff them in these coffins now.
Yeah. It just, again, it shows how disgusting we are, especially like, you know, big business. I mean, they're in it for business. These places that, especially now you look at places that pump out like these apartment complexes. And even when you drive by something like around where we live, there's a lot of like farmlands. And as we've grown up, even over the last 20, 30 years, these farmlands have been just overrun by these new communities being put in. It's like every time I drive like in the direction of where you live, Mike, I discover like, oh, that neighborhood wasn't here last time I was down here.
Oh, yeah.
But when you see these homes, these $3,000 and $4,000 and $5,000 homes being built that are literally 1.5 feet apart from each other on these little pieces of land, and then when you do a little more research and you find the quality of the materials that these building companies are using to put these massive $500,000 homes together, and it's straight crap. Like they're cutting corners everywhere they can. Yeah. It's crazy. But again, these were all messages that were put out there in 1973. You know, like what the tendencies of humans to take advantage of other humans to better their own pocketbooks. It's just...
And it goes back to that line, too. You said, which I didn't, after you said it, I caught it when I heard it, and then after you said it, I've been thinking about it, but that whole, like, the fish is worried about hunger and not the fisherman type thing. It's like all this stuff can happen because everyone's so concerned about their daily lives and just, like, getting through day to day that you're not looking at the big picture of, like, all this shit that's just happening to you.
Yeah. And not only that, I think what that line also represented is what we as humans, we are the fish in this world where when that fish, this is what we don't consider, when that fish gets yanked out of the water, it still has no fucking idea what the hell's going on. It's not like it said, oh, I might not want to do that again. This man who wants to eat me is, you know what I'm saying? Like, it doesn't know. Like, it's such a... It's beyond their comprehension. And I think that was part of it too. That was like a little message that kind of summed up this whole thing. Because you have this whole crew looking for the meaning of life and looking for immortality. And they're
they have everything else. Yeah, they have everything, but they're still not happy.
And they're still not happy. But they don't understand. Like they're searching for something in this outside the world that we live in that they obviously have no comprehension of, and they're not even remotely built to understand it. And I don't know. I thought that was. I agree. That was a good line. Like when they told them to burn their money, and the thief stole some money.
Yeah, that was great. He's like, I'll take some of that. And then when he's like, nah, thief, burn it. And he pulls out like the 2 bills and everybody starts laughing at him. And he throws it in. Yeah. But that was kind of cool too because they're laughing at him. But at the end of the day, when they pushed all their money in there, they were all equal at that point. Yep. Like when they went on the journey and had to shave their heads and do all that stuff, like he was no different than any of the other of the other ones.
That's right. The other thing I dug made me think. At one point, the thief character, who already started to think that he was being enlightened and he was gaining knowledge, at one point, this group then encounters a bunch of children running towards them, and they look hungry. So the thief is now going to use his newfound knowledge and help feed them, help do something to help them out. And the alchemist stops him and laughs and says, You want to perform miracles like Christ? See what happens if you did. And then there's a visual of him creating all these loaves of bread for these children, and all they do is start fucking playing with them and throwing them around and, jumping on top of them. Yeah. Well, I took it as they weren't were they fighting over them, or were they?
I think it caused conflict. I think that was the point. Is like you're trying to do something nice, but now they're living in excess and they don't need anything. So now they're just going to fight over an abundance of food. That's the way I took it. I'm not sure.
Yeah, no, you're probably right. I took it a half a step further, and I didn't take it as they were having a conflict to fight for the rations. I took it as there was so much of it, they didn't even give a fuck about it anymore, to the point where they were literally just playing with their food.
Yeah, well, I think it's both.
They were piling it up and jumping on top of it as if it were like a mattress, like... That's how I took it.
I think it's both. I think it's they had so much it was like pointless, but then it's just like kind of like I apologize in advance, billionaires, but it's kind of like billionaires like just having everything where they have nothing better to do except fucking cause conflict and Did we talk about that with the in a previous episode maybe about like ancient vampires and stuff like that have nothing better to do than to fuck things up? Anyway. That might have been something else.
Was that your other podcast? I'm not sure.
I think it was. I might have got. I know there's a podcast I listened to about vampires and stuff where they mentioned that, and I didn't know if we also talked.
Well, I mean, your other
so.
podcast, isn't it called "The Plight of Ancient Vampires"? I mean, I think it's clearly that podcast.
It is.
So a couple more notes, and then we got to move on, because I think this is, again, there's so much to unpack in this one. We can talk about everything and really not get anywhere. The Legless Dwarf ended up being an illusion. And when he was on the boat and they pulled this illusion out of him, he saw his friend again, but everyone else saw him holding nothing. So when he picked his friend up, he was really holding just nothing. There was nothing there. So before I proceed, because I thought there was a really cool moment, probably my favorite moment of the whole film that really hit me more emotionally than anything else. But what did the friend represent? His tendency as a human to kind of hold on to, I don't know, like I was having trouble understanding what the friend was supposed to represent within the thief character. Like
I took it as that I didn't think that he was fake the whole time or imaginary. I thought that he was really his friend at the beginning, and then later when they draw him out, I think then he becomes symbolism for like letting go of your past.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Instead of carrying these memories with you of things that you'll never see again.
Okay.
And that weigh you down and torture you. You let it kind of like, isn't that like what Buddhism's about? Is about constantly just letting go, and you keep being reincarnated until you finally get rid of everything.
Okay.
And you're free to move on. I could be wrong.
Yeah, I think you answered my question. So what he represented in that moment was the past. That's what he represented. And that's what he had to let go of. So that makes sense.
I took it as.
No, that answers my question, because I was having trouble figuring out if the friend was imaginary the whole movie. I couldn't quite put my finger on what he represented and what was he trying to release himself of. But that makes sense, what you said. So he wasn't imaginary the whole time. But that moment on the boat where he had to let him go and throw him over, that was an impactful moment.
Oh, yeah.
That moment hit me. That was a good moment. That was a really good moment in filmmaking, like, because even through all this abstract chaos and underlying messaging, that was a really well done moment that like got that emotional connection. And I felt really bad. And it was when he ended up throwing him over empty-handed, I could almost envision it. It was such a powerful moment, even though you didn't actually see the friend go into the water.
Yeah, you heard him though.
Yeah,
I wonder if that was, and this is spoiler alert if anyone hasn't seen Fight Club, which I'm sure everyone has at this point. But it was also a very Tyler Durden kind of moment to a degree, I think, where it's like you had to make, in order to free yourself, you had to make a painful sacrifice. You know what I mean? You had to that may or may not, you had to have faith that that was the right thing to do in order to get through it.
Yeah. A couple more quick Pat's points before we move on to
rating.
Talking about the ending and then the rating. Yeah. So I do want to say, though, at this point, spoilers. If you have not watched the film and you want to be surprised by the ending, then stop now, pause it now, and you can come back later and finish this episode. But now would be a good time to do that. So when this group finally makes its way over to the Holy Mountain, I thought it was hilarious. And again, just a jab at us as a people. How many people were distracted by the bar at the base of the mountain? They literally are at the cusp of, potentially finding the meaning of life and everything they've been looking for at the Holy Mountain, but they're just going to chill in the bar instead. Like, how human is that,
Yeah, it's like I was on a spirit journey, but then there was like half-price orange crushes, so I kind of live here now.
Exactly. I loved the dude who could conquer the mountain horizontally.
Yeah.
He may be my favorite character.
That dude was cool. I think there's probably a lot to say about that, too, because my sister and I talk about spiritual bypass, I think. And I'll have to look this up, I might be way off, but basically the idea of people who talk about how spiritual they are and how to overcome things and do all this, and they like to talk about it, but they don't live it. And I kind of felt like that guy was kind of that guy. It's like, oh yeah, look at me, I could do this thing, I can pass through the mountain. But you're like, you're not doing the thing that's required of you. You're doing it sideways, Yeah,
you're. It's kind of like cheating. You're like bypassing the trials you're supposed to go through to get to that point. So you're kind of missing out on the lesson of it, basically, the journey.
You're not ascending.
I took it as, okay, so we used the fish reference earlier, or the fish analogy earlier, where the fish is not really smart enough to understand what the fisherman is. It just knows that it's hungry. I took it as, okay, well, this guy here, the one who can horizontally conquer the mountain, he's a little better than the rest of the people that are around him. He has an insane ability, but even with that insane ability, he's still incapable of conquering this mountain.
That's also
I don't know if that's
very
what
good.
you just said, Justin.
No, that's. I mean, kind of. It's similar, but I think it's a different. It's a definitely. It's
okay.
looking.
Okay, but that's kind of how I took it. That even when you have someone who's insanely skilled, abnormally, almost spiritually skilled, but it's still not good enough to find the answers. We're never quite going to get the answers we're looking for.
Yeah.
And here's another aspect. He was doing it the easy way. Like everything is so fucking hard, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And all the sacrifices and weird shit that you have to go through to get there. And this guy's like, he's just taking the easy route and it's not getting him where he needs to go. Yeah. Where they're actually putting the work into it, which I think he even mentions something about, makes it a point about putting the work into doing something.
Right.
I want to rattle a couple quick things off and then we'll get to the ending. So this group, correct me if I am wrong, encountered individual fears of their own, correct? Is that what happened there in that insanity towards the end? And you had various things, spiders on a naked man, a half man, half woman, kind of elderly man who sprayed cat milk out of his breasts.
One of the best scenes of the movie, by the way.
Yeah. We had, oh God, I don't even know. Oh, there was that chicken tree with again, more male genitalia mutilation. Just lots of absolute chaos. Like this was the. Oh, what's that, Justin?
There was a weird bull sex.
The
fist to the mouth.
Cow on cow action. Yeah, there was actual cow. Yeah, sexual intercourse. It was a fireworks display of chaos at that point.
Yeah, it was very bizarre.
And, very bizarre. So then it ultimately gets to the ending. Who would like to take the honors of at least kind of like presenting, but there are some lines that I have from the film that I want to talk about. But the ending, who would like the honors? Because I feel like I've done a shit ton of talking in this.
I'd like to hear Mike say it.
I was going to say Justin because it was your pick.
Oh, that's a good point.
Go ahead. You're probably better at describing.
I'm going to prove you wrong. So, what sit back and allow me to prove you wrong in grand fashion. No, I kind of like, so at the end of the movie, and this is where there's no turning back now. If you're in it, you're going to hear the spoiler. So, at the end of the movie, basically they finally get to this table, and they all sit around the table, and there's dummies there, and they're like, oh, there was no ancients here anyway, and they're all sitting at the table, but one of them is the alchemist, and he's like, oh, haha, like, this is, whatever, you made it here, and here we all are. And then he's like basically explaining the point of it, and he's like, camera's back, and then the camera pushes back, and as the camera pushes back, you see the whole crew filming the movie. So it was very like fourth wall breaking, and it was like kind of just like, it's all bullshit or whatever. I mean, it's all smoke and mirrors, and I don't want to say bullshit because it's not bullshit, but
so this is what I gathered when they were going through this, and like they got to the holy mountain, and then they're facing their fears, and there's a transition that starts to happen amongst these characters, because it starts as all of their individual stories, all of the places that they came from and that we learned about them, they were all very abstract and weird. But towards that last fifth of the movie there, that where they're facing these fears and they're on the mountain, crazy stuff's happening, they themselves, their physical beings, start to convert to more modern looking individuals, right? Did you guys pick up on that?
Oh, well, like the windbreakers and stuff?
Yeah. Their windbreakers, the clothing they were wearing, they started to look more modern, like more normal, quote unquote, especially compared to what most of these characters were wearing in the beginning of the film when we first met them. But there's a line that he says, the alchemist, he says, we began as a fairy tale and came to life. That's when he says, this is a film. Then he says, zoom back, camera. And then he continues, he says, we are images, dreams, photographs. We must not stay here, prisoners. We shall break the illusion, which was awesome. And then the nail in the coffin of the whole thing was, if we have not obtained mortality, at least we have obtained reality.
Yeah,
so
that was the, yeah.
There was some really great shit. Like, I love, especially when it got to the end. Like, even though I was getting nuggets throughout and feeling like I was learning, I was gaining. It wasn't just like I was watching a bunch of flashing colors and I wasn't getting anything. It was very thought-provoking, and it was taking me on a ride, and I couldn't wait to see kind of where it went next because of just not only the insanity of it, but also the messaging of it and what they were clearly trying to teach us. But I thought what was so great about the whole thing is ultimately he did teach us, even though we didn't get the meaning of life, and these characters didn't get immortality, they still learned that, and again, this translates to modern day so well. Get your fucking face out of your computer and live.
Live your life.
Live.
Yep.
Yeah.
You know, it's all smoke and mirrors. Enjoy the moment. Enjoy the little things. Stop looking for the answers. Just embrace what you have and make it the best you can make it.
Yeah. Stop listening to podcasts.
Yeah, exactly. Turn this off right now.
Yeah.
As I said earlier, now that we've talked about that ending, the first time I saw that, I laughed out loud, but in joy, I wasn't laughing like, this is fucking stupid.
Yeah.
I was like, this is incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah, like you've been taken for a ride, but you're like, oh, very clever. Like, you know when someone cons
me.
but it's such a good con, you're like, very good. You know what I mean? Like,
suckered me in, and it was all, not, like you said, Justin, not all bullshit, but it was, like you guys were saying, it's smoke and mirrors. It was, God, I love this movie.
The fact that it's a movie, though, and fairly popular, I mean, it's probably... is this in the Criterion Collection, which they seem to catalog everything? But anyway, like, aren't those characters immortal now because they're on film? They'll never age.
That's true.
Yeah, they are immortal.
Like, you know what I mean? The actors will age, but those characters will never age now.
Yep. So they did attain immortality in a way.
I think that but not really. You know,
Not
and I
really,
think the
but...
Alchemist and I think Alejandro would say, no, they're not immortal. They're dead. You know, like the art might live on, but you're never going to find true immortality, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway. Yes. So, Justin, since this was your pick, you can decide in which order we will rate it. And I say we go around the horn and do just that.
I'm going to go Mike, and then you, and then I'm going to go last.
Okay.
And the only reason I'm going last is because I'm trying to buy some time because I have zero idea what I would rate this at.
I'm definitely going to go pretty high with this one. And I kind of painted myself into a corner with my rating for Cyborg.
Oh, God. Yeah.
Didn't see that coming, did you?
Because I gotta say, as much as I love Cyborg, this movie has a lot more meaning and depth to it.
Mm-hmm.
And God, the visual style alone would give it a high rating. I'm going to give it... I haven't even have not thought about my rating at all till right now.
All right, well, just take your time.
I'm glad I went with you first. We got all the time in the world. Yeah, everything's digital now. It's not like we're running out of tape.
Yeah. I'm going to give it an 8.9.
Okay.
Holy smokes.
Because it's not like a movie that I can watch all the time, you know what I mean? It doesn't have like... I can't just like pull this movie out and be like, I just want to turn my mind off and watch something. You know, I have to be in like the right mindset to watch this type of movie.
But it had more of an impact on you than, say, Robot Jocks.
Yeah, Robot Jocks.
Yeah, 8.9.
All right. Let me jot that down. Mike, 8.9. So this is what I'm going to say. This film is not the type of film I traditionally take a liking to. Just because sometimes these films are so abstract and trying too hard, and I just kind of get bored because, you know, I'm not really getting anything out of it. But this film is different. Like, I looked at this film as, I mean, this film, it's not just a film. It is a piece of art. I can clearly tell the amount of thought that went into this and the amount of work that they had to put into this thing to not only gather all this crew and these actors, but just the thought-provoking moments. It was awe-inspiring. This thing it's like a masterclass in abstract, thought-provoking cinematography, and I don't say that lightly. What I will say, though, is there are things about this film. It is not for the squeamish. It is not for people who are easily offended. There are things in here that are dirty and grimy and offensive and nasty and ugly, but therein lies the point. This is about humans. It is about us. And I think you're not doing it true justice if you're going to polish everything up to make you happy. And when I say you,
Correct.
I mean me, all of us. So it has to be dirty. It has to be ugly. And it was. And like we had referenced earlier, there's things that I'm not going to be forgiving of, and I'm not going to give them passes that they hurt animals, even though it may have been before animal cruelty rules. That doesn't apply. I don't care. It was still done. With that said, though, I got to give respect to this film. It was thought-provoking. It's something that is special. There's so much of it that's going to stick with me. Like, I watch a lot of films and I walk away from them and I have no fucking idea what I watched. It was so unmemorable, but this one is different. And as goofy as it is at times, I thought it was so deep, it was so well done and thought-provoking, and yeah, I gotta rate it high. So I'm not gonna go as high as Mike, but I'll give it a solid 7.5. So I was very happy with it, and yeah, I appreciate you bringing it to the table, Justin. I had no idea, and yeah, I wouldn't say that I would recommend it to others. I will cautiously recommend it to fans of film who want to get outside their comfort zone and watch something that's not typical. So we'll leave it at that. Justin?
That was very well put. I don't really know what my rating's going to be still, but hopefully by the time I get through this thing, I'll have something. But I'm glad to hear you say all that stuff, because I knew Mike would like it and everything. Because I think we spoke about it before, but
Probably,
I targeted you specifically because of what I said earlier about that time years ago when we tried to watch El Topo and it didn't work out, and then just in the last couple months of us doing this and just your perspective on things now that, like, I think maybe you might not have had then, or you didn't get to see enough of it to make the opinions that you have now. Yeah. But I just I just really thought there'd be a lot of stuff in here that you would like really get into, and like I didn't think you would get as into it as you did, so I'm super excited about that.
Yeah.
I was hoping to be kind of 50-50. I thought I was going to get like half of what I got, like what you said about like the like you opened my mind to like whole stuff, like parts of this I didn't even think of. I was expecting 50% of that and 50% of like, what the fuck did I just watch?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, but I'm very happy that you liked it, and actually, and the things you said actually made me actually enjoy it more, because I kind of always been on the fence with it. Like, I really like it a lot. Like, I like his movies, but like I'm always like on the fence. I'm like, do I really like it? Like, I like the visually, I like it a lot, but like, do I think it's as smart and clever as it is, or am I being tricked into like, where I feel like there's some artists that just tell you how clever they are, and then everyone's like, oh yeah, they're very clever, but then when you look at it, it's like, oh, they've just been telling everyone they're clever.
Yeah.
And the reason I've always struggled with that is because every one of his movies I've ever watched, 2 of his movies I've ever watched out of the 3, because I was gonna say Santa Sangre is not like this, but I feel like a lot of his movies, like he kind of, there's always like reoccurring things, like where it feels like everything, he has like this weird kind of messiah vibe that he puts himself in. So it's kind of like, hey, check me out.
Yeah.
So that's what kind of gave me that vibe. But then, so I think maybe I was, being a little too harsh on that aspect. So hearing you talk about it and break stuff down, I was like, I don't know. I think that's really, like, the fact that you got the same things out of it that I got, and then more, expanded on it, says that it's probably more valid than I give it credit for sometimes.
Yeah.
Also, one other thing is I wanted to mention too about even if this isn't exactly your cup of tea, I think his movies are also important. His movies in general are important because I think they inspire future filmmakers. One of them being, I think it's Tarsum Singh. Has to be influenced by this, and Sarah and I were talking about this, and I've only ever seen 2 movies of his, which I liked them both. He did The Cell in 2000 and The Fall, and he did The Fall in 2006 that had Lee Pace in it. And The Cell I don't really remember much about, but it's very visually stimulating. But The Fall I loved, and if anyone hasn't seen that, you should see it.
I have not.
Oh, it's awesome. Like, it has, like, when you watch it, like, oh, he definitely took cues, at least from the visuals, like they're just like breathtaking.
Yeah.
And the story's kind of cool
Cell,
too.
is that the one with
J-Lo and
I've heard
and
that
the Egger suit.
That movie's kind of having like more of a resurgence because it was kind of like pooped on when it originally came out.
I think it was one of those ones where they had like popular people like J-Lo. Like, think about like the crowd that's usually going to listen to J-Lo's music.
Yeah.
And then are they going to watch like Holy Mountain?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
and nothing
right,
against
right,
the people that listen to J. I mean, just like I think it's two
just a different
things,
audience.
Yeah, so they might not have picked, whatever. But anyway, that is all I have to say about that. So with that being said, 7.8.
Okay.
Because I didn't know what to do, so I just said that.
All right.
But it's kind of between. It's between where you guys are, right?
Yeah, he said 7.
Yeah.
No, you're a. Oh yeah, you are between us.
He's between us, yeah.
Yeah. So let's see. We got 8.06 is our average.
Oh, cool.
Which kind of aligns with where we're at with Rotten Tomatoes, right? That was
yeah.
What was that? That was 83% was the critic score. Yeah. You would almost think we do this shit intentionally sometimes. But
the 3 of us are the everyman.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Collectively.
Yeah.
Well, Justin and I are the everyman. Mike is the every woman.
Holy shit.
What?
Do you remember earlier when I said at this point I felt like I was watching an REM video? I just happened to be on Tarsum Singh's IMDb page because I wanted to see if I knew anything else he did. He did the REM Losing My Religion video.
Oh, did he? Nice.
Yeah.
Cool.
That's crazy.
All right. Well, any final thoughts before we shut this thing down?
Nah, I ain't got nothing.
No, I don't think I have anything. I think you have one last thing, though, don't you?
Yes.
About a certain thing.
So we do. Yeah. You would have probably seen it by now, is the 25th episode contest that we have coming up here on the MacGuffin Guild, and we want you to be a part of it. So check out the promotion for details and prizes and whatnot, but what we want you to do is we want you to tell us what film we should do for our 25th episode, and once we get all of our submissions, each of us, me, Justin, and Mike, will pick one of those final films, and we will put it up to a poll for all the MacGuffin Guild members to vote on. And the winner will be featured on the 25th episode of the MacGuffin Guild. And within it, in addition to the prize pack, you will also be mentioned contractually 5 times throughout the course of the episode, which should be pretty fun. So anybody who's always wanted to be talked about multiple times on a podcast, this is the opportunity you've been waiting for. So
we haven't determined if it's going to be 5 each one of us would mention you 5 times or 5 times
Jesus
collectively.
Christ.
We haven't spoke to our legal department yet.
5 times collectively would probably be, but we'll see. Who knows? I guess they're going to get back to us with details.
It depends how fun it is to say your name. I think.
It's going through the courts right now, so we'll see how it ends up.
I don't want to give any spoilers about the entire prize package, but there may or may not be individually crafted ass paintings from each one of us, signed with a certificate of authenticity.
Yeah.
So
I heard Mike,
keep an eye out for that.
Mike has been working on turning his shit to gold, so hopefully that's done in the next couple weeks, and then
I'm perfecting this formula. It's gonna happen.
All right. Well,
I've been playing with my shit a lot.
Might get some Mikey Nugs in your package too. You don't know.
It might not be fully formed gold, but it'll be poop in a partial process of turning into gold. You'll at least get that.
Well, it might just be yellow dookie, but who's really counting?
You'll get something.
Here's what you do: you watch this movie, has the instructions how you do it. You break out your pressure cooker. You get in there. I think you put it. You set it on high. 25 minutes. You should probably do it.
Yeah.
So
don't give away all our trade secrets, though, Justin.
No. Yeah,
That's
we got to keep that to ourselves. But we're excited about this, and we're excited about you being a part of it. We really want to hear, and this is what I recommend. I recommend using the knowledge you've gained about us. If you've listened to a handful of these episodes, you can probably already start to tell, what's Justin like, what's Mike like, what's Pat like, where do they all fall on the spectrum, and then use that knowledge and try to recommend something you think we will each pick, or, like if you think Justin likes this style of film, which, he is off the fucking rails, but you could find something more suited for Justin with the hope that Justin will pick it. So that's what I recommend doing. Try to appeal to what we enjoy. Use what you've learned about us, and maybe we'll pick your film, and, you could end up being discussed on a podcast. I mean, that's pretty fucking cool.
And get a sweet ass prize package as well.
That's what she call it, the quote unquote sweet ass prize package.
But anyway, hit us up. Just go to our social media where the video is posted, the promo video, and then post your suggestions in the comments below, and we will gather them from there. So, all right, fellas, anything else?
No, man, I think we's good.
All right.
I think we're done.
Cool. Okay. Well, on that note, thank you so much, Justin, Mike. Thank you guys as always, and thank you everybody for listening. Check us out on all of our social media, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, Discord. Hit us up, contact us, communicate with us, and like I said, hit us up with your ideas for the 25th episode. We want to hear what you have to say. And we
want to hear from you.
We appreciate everything. We appreciate your support, and we will talk to you next week. How's that sound? Good?
Sounds good.
Sounds like a winner.
All right. Peace. See you guys later.
See ya.
I raised you better than this.
And then the stunt guy to go up in a diaper on a fish hook all the way up there. I almost passed out watching that scene.